this tutorial you're going to need 1mm wire, which is 18 gauge, and I'm also going to be using 0.315, which is a 28 gauge. You could use also 0.4 or 0.8. I keep using the same gauges for the reason of, if you are following these tutorials and you buy the reels, I want you to be able to use the same sizes so that you end up saving money. But like I say, it is possible to use other gauges if those are what you have available. And also, this is a combination tutorial with some of the previous ones. I've done love hearts, butterflies and some Halloween themed tutorials. This is going to be part of the Cabochon series. The Cabochon is a bead basically, but doesn't have a drill hole, usually has a flat back and a domed top. Can be in different shapes. They can come in love hearts, teardrops, this one's obviously oval, but they can be perfectly circular and other shapes, but we're going to be using this one. And as always, I'm going to be doing this slightly larger than what you would necessarily need it, but that's just to, one, make it clear on camera, and two, just so that it's easy to follow. So the sizes I'm going to be using are for this specific cabochon, but the way I'm going to teach it is I'll say the lengths I'm using, but I'll teach you how you can do it to the size that you want. So to begin with, we're going to go around the cabochon and get the size that we want, and we're going to decide how big of a bail we want. Now, because this is a larger cabochon, I'm likely going to want more wire to make it a bigger bail. Obviously, because there will be more weight, that is something to take into consideration. So I'm going to have about 10 centimeters there before I actually start forming around the cabochon, and I'm going to do a right angle so that we know where we're starting. And you could do this differently. Say you wanted to have the cabochon sat this way. Wherever you start, just bear in mind that is where the frame will stay. So if you did decide you wanted to do it this way and then later on thought, oh, it looks nicer this way, or vice versa, because we have created the frame to be at this point, only way we can really do it is if we switch, you know, the up and the down. Obviously the shape this way would be too much of a difference, so it's just something to be aware of. Now, I always like to have a little bit over on my bail, so I end up wrapping twice over, so when we come back around I'll finish the wire here and start the bail going that way. That's personal preference. You could do it to exactly that point and not go over, but I find, one, this is easier for creating the frame to go around, and you know I'm all about doing things the easiest way possible, less energy. And so it's easier for that, and also I just like being able to have that extra security. These are just personal preferences. You can start exactly bang in the middle, but I'm going to have that little bit extra going over. So you need to hold the cabochon down whilst you do this and in place, and sorry, my dexterity isn't the best today. Because we are going to be fighting against the wire as we come around, just be aware of that. You want to pull the wire tight as well, because this is the frame. So we've created the shape that we're going to use, and like I said, I'm going to put this back around for a moment. I'm going to see where I want that to form. So I've done it slightly with my nail, but I'll do it sharper there so that it's going to sit over, and then I just want to have the same length afterwards. So that's how you would do it for your cabochon. Obviously, like I say, I'm teaching this as in if you were using a smaller cabochon, which is far more likely, or a teardrop shape, different shapes, it will obviously, it will vary. So we just want to really go around the particular cabochon you've chosen to create that frame. Now the second part, I'm going to push that down, I don't need the cabochon right now. We need more of the 1mm wire, and starting from the point of that wire, you want to come right down to the bottom, and then you want to create a right angle. You can do this as sharp or loose as you want, and you want to cut it to the same length on the other side. Okay. So now we're going to attach this in place, and we're going to put it on what will be the back. So we're actually going to overlap it slightly. It will likely move and go here, but when we put the cabochon in, it should sit behind. That's what we're wanting. So you need to take a length of your weaving wire. For me, this is the 0.3, and we will also use this wire one to attach, but we're going to purposely leave a tail either side so that we can also attach whatever you're going to put on top. So if you put the butterfly on top, it'll be for attaching the butterfly. If you choose the love heart, for attaching the love heart, or if you choose a completely different shape, that's why we're going to have a little bit more, so we can use the same wire. So I'm taking about 20 centimeters here, and again, choose which side is the front and back and lay it on that. Now normally I do anchor wraps, but because we're going to be starting from the middle point, we're actually going to, basically the anchor wraps are going to be the middle of the piece. So you want to try and get it in place as much as you can. This might be an idea for you to use some of your other tools I suggested in the tips for wire working. I think it's 12 tips for wire working. You might want to use a clamp, you might want to sellotape up here, and masking tape even, so that this isn't moving. For now I'm going to just, even though it's not in the place I want it to be, like I say, these are the anchor wraps technically, so I'm just going to wrap it, because from there I'll be able to tighten and do more. But for right now, so there we are, that I can put it to where I want it now. I'm going to do wraps on with the other side of the wire as well. Take your time, there's no need to rush this. Like I say, it can still move at this point. Even when we do the secure wraps on either side, it still is going to have the ability to move along the frame. It's only when we're going to secure it at the top that it will stop moving. So once you've done the wraps connecting the two together, then just go along the base, the frame, sorry, and then do some wraps there. And like I said, we want to leave a tail on each side because we're going to use this wire some more for attaching later. So I'm going to do the same on the other side. And that's it for now. And like I said, they're going to be part of securing the cabochon in place, but they're not going to be in place until we attach it at the top. So in this next stage you really need to be careful, because this is where if you make a mistake it's going to be stuck in place from that point on. So what I am going to do is crimp these closer together because they're going to go in between our wraps here. And if you remembered, I mentioned that we're going to wrap along here to begin with. This is where we're going to start. We're going to secure this part of the frame before we add in the 4 wires to create the 4 wire weave bail. I've done a bail video also, but I only used 2 wires, and I've also done a video on 4 wire weaves, so any of those you can use at this point. I'm just going to obviously use one particular style, so that will be what we're doing. Okay, so now we're going to start doing the bail. I'm going to take my standard 40 centimeters. We will use more wire than that to do this particular bail, but if you've watched any of my previous tutorials, that's just the length I find easiest to work with, so that's the only reason. So first of all, we're going to anchor it to one of these sides, and we're going to do this part of the frame. You will want to put the cabochon back in at some point to make sure that it is sitting right, but just to begin with, like I say, I'm just anchoring it, so we're just going to do that. Okay. So like I said, we're going to put this back in, and I want to have some idea of where it's going to sit. At this point we're obviously attaching 2 wires together. Now this doesn't need to be exactly perfect, but you kind of want it as tight to it as is possible. The reason why it doesn't need to be perfect is because we're going to have a back and then we're going to have a front, so it's going to be held in place, and then when we come back around we're going to be able to attach some of these wires to the front as well to give it that little bit of extra security. So it doesn't need to be exactly on it, but the closer it is the more secure it'll be. So that's just something to be aware of. And for doing the frame, it's attaching 2 wires together. So if you've seen the 2 wire weaving, or wire weaving with 2 base wires I think it's called, that video, I'll link all the videos I mention below, and some of them I'll put in a little eye if you see that on the side of the screen. Right now I'm just moving those wires out of the way because they're just getting to be a little bit problematic. And you want to try and obviously get the space between them 2 wires to be equal, so at points you probably are going to need to up the tension a little bit, just so you don't have a large gap on this side and a small one on that one. I'm just doing a 1-1 wrap in case you hadn't noticed. And that's once over, once around, once over, once around. We're going to end on this top one because that's where we do the bail. I'm just going to do a few single wraps around this one in the same way we did the anchor one over there, just because I wanted to match. Okay. Now if you saw the bail making tutorial, I taught you that you need to make a V and then at the same point come back in. It goes straight for a while. You might want to use some wire straightening at this point. I'm just going to use my nylon coated. And then at the end you come back in. I haven't quite decided on the full length I want this to be yet, so I'm not going to do that right now. What I am going to do is put this to the middle. This is the point where we're going to end up fixing it in place, as I mentioned earlier. So we want to be careful where we end up fixing it. Okay, we're gonna take these two wires and make sure they're down here out of the way. Now I'm going to do a different weave for the actual bail. I just want to fix these in place right now to begin with. So I'm just going to undo a couple of these wraps. Now when I do this properly, I'm going to not wrap over each one. This is just for securing it at the very beginning. It's the only reason I'm doing this right now. Okay, so I'm just going to leave that there. I'm also going to make sure that these are straighter and closer together. Okay, so the bottom of the frame just moved, so that wasn't helpful. Hold it in place as much as you can. Okay, I'm just going to move those out of the way right now. Okay. The reason I am straightening those out is because I've decided I want to make the bail slightly smaller. So when I come to finishing that part of the weave, I'm actually going to do it here now. So now we are going to start doing the actual weave along. We do still have this tail, so what you might want to do is maybe add it as a little bit of extra security at the back here. That's up to you. You could just cut it off straight where it was, but because it can still move, I'm just going to wrap this one wire in place a little more. Personal preference. And I'm going to wrap it over the bottom frame as well. This will all be hidden, so don't worry about it. I'm just going to cut that off there. And again, if you've seen any of my previous tutorials, I always say to rock on the wire to get it in place. So that just gives a little bit of extra security. Okay then. Now we only have a small tail here, so we're not going to have a lot of length left in it for doing this weave. We will need to add more in, but like I say, I just wanted to make sure I had enough to do that and secure those bits. Now, as you remember when we were doing it a moment ago, I wrapped a secure loop around each time. We're not going to do that now. We're going to do, I call it a basket weave, but I don't know if that's actually its name because I've heard it be called other things. But basically we don't wrap over each individual one until we get to the side. Then we do I call it an extra security loop. Not sure if that's what it's really called. Probably just a loop, or a wrap. But for me, I realise it creates more security in the wire, helps to stop it slipping, so that's the reason why I like to do it. So we go under, over, and then a wrap on each side, and then back again. Just be careful because the wires do like to move. You really want to try and keep them in place as much as possible. So this is slightly trickier. I wouldn't really call it an advanced tutorial, but it does just mean you need to pay a little bit more attention to what you're doing, and if you do have any dexterity issues, that can be a bit of a pain. Now, I'm not sure if this will do another full one across. Let's see. Okay, just managed it. I'm going to take a thinner pair of pliers to grab that little tail there. And again, we want to secure that wire in place, so I'm going to do my little rocking motion. Okay, and I'm going to pull that weave down. Now we're going to add in more wire. The side that we finish on, we go to the opposite side to start the weave. So you're going to take a length again. I always take 40 centimetres. It's just my comfortable amount, but again, if you're going to be using different lengths, it's going to be different for you. If you're doing a different size, you know, if you're using a much smaller cabochon, you're not going to need a bail this big. Just something to be aware of. I just need, sorry for taking that out of frame, but I needed to check which side I'd just finished on. It was this side, so I'm going to start this side. To begin with, I'm just going to do a couple of anchor wraps. I always do it closer to the end, the reason being that it's just easier for me to do. I'm just going to hold that tail in place, bring all those wraps closer together, and move it down. Using a pair of pliers, I'm just going to pull this out and down. And then we're just going to continue the weave in the same way we had done, and I'm just trying to bunch it as close as we can. Be aware of these wires, because where we fix them in place is where they're going to stay. So you might need to hold them at points. Again, from a dexterity point of view, this can be tricky, so just be aware of that, guys. And just use your fingers to manoeuvre the wire if need be. One thing that I noticed, particularly in the beginning, is because I was focusing so hard on these wires, I'd sometimes forget about doing the wraps on the outside, and sometimes they'd go over. Just be aware of that when you are wrapping. Because we are focusing on so many things. Okay, so now we've got to the straight bit. Just decide how long you want this to be. I'm probably going to do about 1 centimetre and then go back in, and then finish off the bail that way. I am going to do some of it on camera, fast forward it, then parts of it off camera, and I'll come back when we're doing the opposite side. So fast forward now, Kayleigh. Okay, so deciding where I want the bail to come back in, I'm going to do that here. And I'm going to work from here up this time. The reason being that it's easier to go from a thin area to a thick rather than a thick to a thin, the wire will slip if we do that. And because I need to be careful of these other wires, that's just something I'm aware of. Also, what we do at this point will fix these two in place properly, so that's something else to bear in mind. I'm going to do a few anchor wraps to one of the wires that create the bail frame. Then pinch them together. And then I'm just going to, at the point where I want them to sit together, I'm going to go and create a wrap around that cross section. Get pliers in my own way there. Careful about catching on other wires, as you can pretty much guarantee that will happen when technically it shouldn't really be possible, but wires seem to have a magic way of doing that. Okay, so I'm just gonna attach to that same wire singly. And this is kind of tricky, so you might need to use pliers again if you have any dexterity issues, just be aware of that. Okay, and I'm just going to, this one's getting in the way now as well. I'm just going to cut that off because at this point it's already fixed in place and we don't need that bit of wire. Okay, so this needs to be at the bottom, those need to be in place, and we need those to end where they're going to end. Now this part is going to be slightly trickier. Again, if you have dexterity issues, eyesight issues, I am struggling with my sight at the moment. It's just one of those things. So I just want you guys to be aware that if, you know, take a break, do this slowly, do it at your own pace. That's what we're doing. And then we're just going to do the exact same wrap coming down this side. So I'm going to fast forward at this point and do the same until we meet in the middle, and then we'll move on to the next part. Okay, so now that the bail has finished being woven, we are going to form it. Again, I did this in the tutorial on bail weaving. And now we have 4 wires for the end part. For now, we're just going to ignore them and we're going to move to fixing in the cabochon. So the cabochon still fits in the frame. We've got the back section so that it's not going to easily fall out. And what we need to do next is something on the front to help hold it in place, and this is where the previous tutorials that I mentioned come in. So you can do whatever you want on the front, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to attach the butterfly. So as I was trying to decide where I wanted the butterfly to fit on top of the cabochon, I realised the tail we did here wasn't going to fit to the size I wanted, so what I did was just simply wrap the rest of the length I had and carried on, and I'm going to attach new wire at each side, and with the cabochon in place I will, when I get to the points where I want to attach, I'll attach there. You can always mark the wire, it's probably your best bet for making sure you get this at the right position, so that's just something to be aware of when you're doing this. If you were doing the love heart shape, obviously it would have been easier to attach to the bottom, but I really wanted to do the butterfly, and once I have an idea in my head I stick with it because I'm just like that. So I just changed the design slightly from my original plans, but it is only a case of adding some more wire, and then I will probably end up wrapping single loops across the entire frame, well, this particular part of the frame. So I'm going to do that now. I'll probably end up fast forwarding it because again we're just going to be attaching this at the point when we reach it, and the whole point is that we secure the butterfly over the cabochon. And you don't have to do it the same way as me, you know, depending on how big your butterfly is. Oops. Don't lose your cabochon if you can avoid it. But say if I had a smaller one, we're going to bring these forward at the end, so we're going to be able to cover the top part anyway, and we'll probably use these for extra security at the back. So we've got that little bit of extra, so if it doesn't have to cover the whole thing, you might want to, let me hold this cabochon in place. Again, if you have any dexterity issues, this can be quite tricky, but you won't be doing this on camera at an awkward angle either, so bear that in mind. So if you wanted to fit, you know, the best way, you could put it to the side and have it just so those 2 points attach the antenna and one of the wings. That would be all you'd need to do, as long as parts of it are attached. But like I say, I'm going to do it so that both the wings are attached on the side here, and then maybe at the top when I bring it around I might attach the antennas to some swirls or something. Haven't quite decided yet, but I'm just going to do that now. So same as always, I'll take 40 centimeters. Again, that's just my comfortable length that I work best with for wrapping. There's no particular reason for that past comfort. So we took, I think it was 40 centimeters here, so we've already done one lot. We'll probably end up doing another 2 lots on each side, so that's probably 3 meters each side, so 6 meters ish. 5 to 6 meters is what you need for doing this frame if you're doing it at this size, and doing single loops the whole way that are tightly wrapped, then that will be the length that you use here. So I'm just going to attach the wire on one side. Again, I've already said the gauges and everything that I'm using, there's no difference. Just try and cut that, there we go. I'm sure you've seen me anchor wire 1,000 times now, but if you still haven't, I'll keep it going at normal speed for this part. And I always keep the tail, because if you don't keep the tail on, it will just continue to twist as you try and do wraps. So that's something to be aware of. Now the distance here wasn't far from where I eventually wanted to attach my butterfly on this side, so I'm not going to do a huge amount of loops. I'm just going to pull that down. I'm going to put my cabochon back in. Be aware that this can still move because we haven't wrapped the entire frame yet. It can still slide around. Let's push that back down there. Okay, and I'm probably going to need another, I don't know if you guys can see that clearly, but I'm probably going to need another 3 or 4 wraps before I can attach. So I'll do those now, and well, I'll just do them now and I won't fast forward. But if you already know how to do single loops, as I'm sure you do, feel free to do it yourself, just fast forward. So 1. This is what I said about keeping that tail on, because it's trying to wriggle around. So I'm going to hold that tail in place there. 2, 3, and 4. You may notice I always use my nails to push it back down. It's one of the ways to damage your nails. You can see a couple of mine have come off. But it's also the easiest way rather than having to use pliers all the time. So your choice. But it is a simple way of manoeuvring the wire. So again, put that back in, hold it. Yeah, that's roughly where I want it to attach. Now, this is kind of going to be the tricky part, because you need to hold the cabochon in. So I'm going to try and use one of my clamps at this point. I haven't done this before. This is entirely the first time I've done this on camera. Well, ever. So I've never actually thought to do this before. It's only because I'm struggling with my dexterity today that I thought, let's give this a go on attempting. So yep, first time for me too, guys. I'm going to push that through. I need to get back through the frame, so that's something to be aware of. I'm probably going to end up going over myself on camera, sorry about that, but obviously again I can't avoid that. But you know what I'm doing, it's just going back through the frame. If you need to go further up to where there is a space, do that. Oh, someone's just rung the doorbell, hence the dog. Okay, there isn't any space, let's do that there. Go for you, go for there, come back in on itself. Okay, we've gone too far now. Like I say, this is the first time I've done this, so well, that was real helpful. Maybe use masking tape instead then. Okay, right. We're sort of back in the right position now, aren't we? So let's try again. Right, you hold that there. You come back here. That's kind of where I want it, wasn't it? Yep, so right, there we go. Make sure the wire is back in the place where it's supposed to be. As you all should know by now, wire does like to move. And so I'm just going to pull that tight, and I'm going to do a second wrap as well. Okay, the wire kinked because of all the problems I just had. There we go. Got through there this time. Okay then, there we go. And then I'm just going to continue wrapping up here, so I'll fast forward that bit and then we'll do the same on the other side. It's up to you. You know, you can do more than 2 loops. That's all I'm going to do for now, because as much as I want it to be, well, I don't want it to be obvious, but I don't want it to be hidden either. Like, I'm not fussed about people being able to see it, but also I don't want to have quite a few across, because then I would be tempted to wrap the whole thing. So just a couple of little ones there is enough for me. I don't know where all this dust keeps coming from. So we'll just wrap that through. That's one thing about this matte black, it seems to attract everything. I noticed it in one of my other videos, there was like white marks all over this, and I was like, where did they come from? Because when I'm doing it, I can't see a single thing, but you guys probably can, because the camera picks up different lights than obviously our eyes do, which is also why it's quite difficult to film sometimes, because the way it looks to me may not be how it looks on the computer in the end. Just a little bit of information for you there, that's not important to the tutorial at all. I'm just getting sidetracked. I was going to ask you guys a question, it's escaped my brain. What was it? Oh yes, do you guys want some Christmas tutorials? I've got a few plans and I really want to do some really basic ones. You know, like I did the Halloween ones, if you've seen those, where I did like the ghost and the witch is hat, the cauldron, the skull, a few others. And I want to do some Christmas ones, but I don't just want to do them exactly the same as those basic ones. I want to do some more advanced versions, so like with the love hearts, I'm probably going to do some advanced versions of those. Maybe with this butterfly as well, I might do an advanced version, haven't decided yet. But I really want to maybe do like 2D and 3D versions, so like Christmas presents, stockings, what else was there? I was thinking snowflake, but that might be difficult. An angel, I really want to do an angel. What else is that? I've got a big long list. I was like Santa, snowman. What else is there for Christmas? By the way, I'm a Christmas Day baby, so I do like Christmas. Halloween's probably my favourite holiday, but Christmas obviously being my birthday is definitely the one that I'm like always more excited about. But not because it's my birthday, more because I love giving presents, and I'm not always great at getting them, but I love like giving them and like spoiling people. And if you ever heard about love language, giving gifts is one of my love language, so I love it. I love like just the fun and like shopping for people. I love shopping in general. But yeah, so like I have to like set myself a limit and then stop, and then I usually don't stop because I still buy things because I'm terrible like that. But yeah, so again, another slight tangent there, guys. Why don't you tell me about you guys? Are you looking forward to Christmas, or do you celebrate another holiday? As you guys probably know, I am spiritual, whatever you want to call it, witch, Wiccan, whatever name you want to give it. Doesn't bother me any. And so Yule is coming up as well at the same time, and there's Kwanzaa, Hanukkah. Oh, there's loads, and that's why it's called the holiday season, because there's so many at that same time. So do you guys celebrate a different holiday, or are you celebrating Christmas? And tell me about it. Are you doing any Christmas shopping yet? And yeah, of course. So yeah, if you want to see some tutorials like that, if you're watching these years in advance, or you're like a few months obviously and it's no longer Christmas, sorry about this little tangent, but it's on my mind because today is Remembrance Sunday, the 12th of November 2017. So I've got Christmas on the brain, and Black Friday's coming up in the UK, and I know it's after Thanksgiving in America, but here it's the 24th. So I'm like looking to get a new camera, probably not for these tutorials. I want to do a different channel. I'm obsessed with makeup and beauty. If any of you follow me on Instagram, you'll be aware of that. Oh yeah, I don't actually really mention my Instagram, do I? I've got Kayleigh Kavanagh at Kayleigh_Kavanagh, same spelling as the channel. And I usually post about makeup on there, to be honest, which is why I want to do like a beauty channel, blog type thing, talk about my illness, life in general. I'm not quite sure if I'm going to do two or not, but that's why I'm looking forward to Black Friday. And my other Instagram is kavsklassics. I'll link it below, and I usually post stuff about jewellery and, you know, like sigils and inspiration, and, you know, like positive quotes and books I'm reading. And that one's kind of it's a bit more of a random mix, to be fair, but and I talk about business on there, and I usually post about whatever videos I'm doing. So if you don't follow me on Instagram, then, you know, please come and have a look. I love Instagram for inspiration. I got asked about where I get my inspiration from, and I might do a video on that. Would you guys like a video on that? Would you be interested? And I can show you, like, I might even promote some of the people that I follow. I'm not sure, I don't know if I'd have to ask for their permission, I'm not sure on that yet. But yeah, so that's another thing. And I just realised I got off on another tangent. I'm so terrible. I'm gonna blame brain fog because I'm a little bit hyper today. well, by my standards. Probably for you guys it's like an ordinary person, but I've only had 4 hours sleep, so I'm a little bit wishy-washy today. So I continued wrapping up this side, and because I was about to get to the point where I would attach the butterfly on the top wing, I wanted to start over here first, because we need to make sure that we take into account the depth of the cabochon. Obviously if we fixed it right here there wouldn't be space, although the frame could manoeuvre slightly because we haven't fixed it or hammered it. I wouldn't want to risk it, so I decided instead that I would swap to the other side. So I've just anchored on the wire and done a few single loops in the exact same way I did on this side, and then we're just going to add the cabochon back in, and in the same way we did on this side we're just going to attach the butterfly. And you need to sort of know exactly where you're going to want it, so I'm going to probably position it about there, and I'm going to take my clamp again. Where is it? Here we go. Oops, again dexterity is not working the best today. Open it up, clamp, hopefully it'll hold long enough. Okay, so we're just probably going to need another couple of wraps before we get to the point where we will attach it there. Try and make sure that's not moving too much. So I am, because of the way the camera is and what's comfortable for me, this may blur. Sorry about that. I'm literally just going to be doing a few single wraps, that's it, nothing special, and then we'll attach it. So I'll probably just fast forward this bit because you guys know exactly what I'm doing. I just wanted to make sure that you knew that you should attach both bottoms on both sides before you attach the top, so then you're not having to overly distort the butterfly in this case. Were it the love heart, obviously it wouldn't be an issue. Whatever shape it is that you're doing, it's easier to make sure to attach on both sides if there's more than one point. That is, if there's just a single point then it's not really an issue, but if you are following this particular tutorial then that's something you need to bear in mind. Okay, I'm going to fast forward it now. And then we'll just continue with single wraps along here. I'm going to do this off camera the same way I did here, and I'll come back when we come to attaching these points. So as I was attempting to match the frame with the butterfly, I've decided that instead of attaching it at each side, I'm going to attach slightly over to one side, so then I can attach here and here. So it's only going to have one secure part on this side, but again when we bring these wires forward we'll be able to create a little bit of extra security here. So I just wanted you to be aware of my thought process at this point. I could have, you know, done it straight and, you know, wrapped the wire over, but I think, again, I'm not fussed about it being seen so much, but I don't want it to distract from the cabochon below. I want the butterfly to just give it that little bit of extra detail, so that's why I'm doing this, because the size that I've done it, and obviously it wasn't perfect. I didn't go for perfect, I prefer organic. So yeah, I'm going to attach here and here, so I just wanted to let you guys know that. I'll just keep wrapping up there and then we'll come back to there. So I'll probably fast forward this part again because again we're just doing attaching wraps and single wraps. So other than your dexterity, this is obviously a very simple tutorial. We literally just create a frame and put a cabochon in, and it's easy to alter deciding on the cabochon that you want, as long as you take into consideration the size of the cabochon and you know, the bail or what else you're doing. So that's just a comment on that. But again, if you don't have any dexterity issues, then this is obviously a very easy catch cabochon tutorial for you all to follow. And like I said, if you do have any dexterity issues, then use a clamp, because it did help. I don't know, it's a little bit fiddly, but use a clamp or masking tape whenever needed. And I did say at the beginning, you know, we didn't have to be hugely tight on the frame, and this is why, because at this point it does make a difference being able to get in between. And if you can't get in at the point that you're working, just always go further up, because you can guarantee that there's going to be a space somewhere, so just use that space. So yeah, I'm going to fast forward now, and like I say, I'll attach it here, and then I'll probably just wrap this part off camera because it's not going to be of any use to you guys. It's just literally single wraps, and I'll come back to speaking when we do the back part of the bail. Okay guys? Okay, so I've wrapped almost all the way up on these sides. I've still got the tails here, I haven't quite finished those yet, but we're looking at the bail now. So what I've done is I've brought these two forward. I haven't secured them in any way, I've literally just pulled them forward, and then we've got these two here, and what we're going to do is we're going to attach them somewhere on the back by simply creating a loop and then wrapping the loop to attach it. It's up to you how big you want the loop, where you want to do it. You can do it right down the bottom, in the middle, at the top, it's up to you. I'm going to go for about here, the reason being I just want that extra bit of security, and I think going around this area will give it that. But your cabochon may be a different size, anything like that, so it's up to you. Trust yourself in your own work. Okay, closing that up. You all know how to do loops, I am assuming. So we'll do that there, and then attach. And you can do it at the exact same point or a different point, whatever works for you. Obviously, if you've got a cabochon that's a different shape, you might need to adjust for that. Okay, yellow was at the bottom. Okay, let's pop that back in. Okay, I'm just gonna move all these wires out of the way. So obviously we're going to have to use some new wire to attach here. So again, taking our thinner gauge wire, whichever gauge you chose to use. You don't need a long length for this because you are just going to be attaching the 2 points. Make sure the whole the loop is closed as much as possible, or it will be able to come out. Okay, and then we're just going to go through here. Now you want it to sit behind, so be careful how tight you wrap it. I'm actually pulling this in between so that it doesn't show on the front. And then I'm just going to do another couple of anchor wraps around the loop itself again, not through the loop. And if you need to, just put a little kink in the wire so that it's not going to move anywhere. And then make sure to trim these wires off. Okay, I'm not going to need these ones like I thought I might, so I'm just going to trim those off as well. Same over here. You know the trick probably for doing those now, so I won't repeat that again. So we're going to do the same again on this side. Just going to make sure that loop is closed. Okay, and then do a few anchor wraps. Okay, and then we're going to attach it around again like we did on the other side. Just another note, I don't know if I mentioned it earlier, but the more wraps you actually do around a wire, it takes up more of the space. That's why I mentioned about it doesn't matter if you've left a little bit of room at the beginning, because you end up filling in the space. And I can't remember if I actually mentioned that or not, so that's something when you create the frame to be aware of if you are going to do single loops all the way around. If you're not, it doesn't matter at all, but obviously I decided it was best for my particular tutorial. I just like the way it looks, quite frankly. Okay, and then we're going to feed this through, and remember we want it to sit behind, and we will kink the wire again if that is necessary. Okay, so we don't need that bit of the loop anymore. I'm just pulling that a bit tighter so that it's definitely attached to the frame securely. I will also mention that you can use glue at any point. Don't think that you can't if that is going to help keep this secure for you. Don't think that, you know, there's some rule against it. Use the Hypo Cement, or I think it's called E6000. Just use one of those. And it will be fine. They dry clear. Okay, and then just trim that off again. And I'm going to use a little bit of glue myself. The reason being, this is probably going to be, my mum's probably going to take it, so as she is someone who can destroy jewellery just by looking at it, I want a little bit of extra security. Okay, I'm just taking it out, there we go. So just put it where you think you're going to need it. Like I say, it does dry clear, so it doesn't make a huge impact on your work. So yeah, then that's probably more than enough. Okay, so now that we've secured the back, we want to secure the front. So we're going to pull these forward, and it's up to you what you do at this point. You could turn them into spirals, you could try and create a rose out of them, it's entirely up to you. I'm just going to cross them over like this, coil them, and then use the wires on the side to attach them. Nice and simple. So once the spirals are in place, we are just going to finish off the wire on the frame and do the same on this side. So I'm just going to do a few more coils up to here, and then I will attach that to there. And then if I so wanted, I would wrap across here. I'm probably not going to do that because it's not necessary once these 2 points are fixed. So I'll just do that, probably fast forward it for you guys, and then you'll see the finished piece complete. And here we have the finished cabochon piece with both sides. The glue is actually dried now that I showed you earlier, and you should be able to see that you can't actually tell it's there. So that's really handy if you do need to use glue at any point. And that's the butterfly on the front. The best thing to do at this point would be to go around, make sure you don't have any edges sticking up. I have shown the thing that I do normally, but I'll show you here again. So there's a little bit hanging out there, so you try and trim it as close to the frame as possible, and then with a pair of pliers you rock on that area to get the wire to sit nice, and then you can tuck it in. So that's pretty much it for this tutorial. Like I say, you could have used anything to go over the front. I'm just using the last thing that I filmed so that we can incorporate some of my previous videos, and so that we didn't get this tutorial too long. It is very simple, it's just more a case of having multiple components, putting them together, and more time and dexterity than anything else. So if you do like this tutorial, give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe. I do have a Facebook group for any of those interested in joining. I will include a link in the description. Everyone's welcome, so please do come along to that if you're interested. Other than that, thank you so much for watching this, and I hope you all have a lovely day. See you again soon. Bye.